We're exploring the future of artificial intelligence and quantum computing and their impact on our world.
This presentation is delivered through an AI system, but let me be clear from the outset. These are not the thoughts of the machine. They are the work, research, and reflections of Dr. Rohan Jawala. Every idea you will encounter has been shaped through years of teaching, inquiry, and engagement across classrooms, communities, and global conversations on education, inclusion, and emerging technologies. The AI serves here only as a conduit, a medium through which these ideas are communicated, while Dr. Jawala continues his work on parallel projects that advance this same mission. What you are about to experience is not automation of thought, but the extension of it. It is an intentional use of technology to carry forward human insight, critical reflection, and lived experience. So as you listen, I invite you to engage not with the voice you hear, but with the thinking behind it. There is a small town in Finland, about 70 kilometers north of Helsinki, 30,000 people, the kind of place you would never visit unless someone you loved was born there. Its name is Riihimäki. In September of 2024, 14-year-old students in Riihimäki walked into school carrying something most of them had not held in the classroom in 6 years, a book. A printed book, with pages that turn, with margins to write in, with ink and paper and weight. Now, you might be wondering why the country that the entire world has been copying for the last 20 years, Finland, the gold standard, the educational miracle, the place every minister of education flew to with a notebook, why that country has just quietly handed thousands of children a thing they had been told was obsolete? That is the question I want us to sit with tonight, because the answer, and it took Finland about a decade to face it, is going to ask something difficult of every one of us in this room. Let me back up. For most of the last 2 decades, Finland was the country every education system on earth was watching. From the year 2000 onwards, Finnish 15-year-olds sat at the very top of the PISA rankings. That is the international assessment measuring reading, mathematics, and science. In 2006, Finland was the top performer in the world. I have sat through more conference sessions than I care to count where someone clicked to a slide that said, "Be more like Finland." Less testing, more play. Trust your teachers, pay them well, let children breathe. It worked for a while. And then, somewhere around 2014, Finland decided it would do what every confident, well-resourced education system in the world was doing. It went digital, all in. Finland's globally renowned education system embraced laptops and other digital devices as key classroom tools, providing free devices to students as young as 11 years old. 11, the age of milk teeth and untied shoelaces. Riihimäki itself stopped using most physical textbooks entirely in 2018. Students got laptops. Lessons went digital. It was exactly the kind of move that gets praised in every education technology circle on earth. And we, and I do mean we, because every Caribbean ministry, every African university, every so-called developing education system was watching. We took notes. If Finland is doing it, it must be the future. Buy the tablets, wire the schools, hand the laptops to the 11-year-olds. Run, don't walk. Here's the part nobody likes to say out loud. Finland's PISA scores have been declining since 2012, and the 2022 results were the worst yet. 12 years of erosion. Reading down, mathematics down, science down, in the very country whose name we had turned into a verb. To go Finnish had once meant excellence. By 2022, it meant something quieter and more troubling. Something was happening to the children. A clinical neuropsychologist working with Riihimäki, Minna Peltopuro, said something I think about often. She said, brains are very vulnerable with multitasking, and especially when you are this young age. She was not being mystical, she was being clinical. The adolescent brain, while it is still building itself, cannot do what we have been pretending it can do. She described it like this. You are doing math on the computer, and then you go to check Instagram. Then you come back to math, and then you go to Snapchat, and then you come back to math. Then we wonder why nobody can read a paragraph anymore. In 2025, the Trade Union of Education in Finland conducted a poll. 70% of Finnish teachers, 70, reported that digital gadgets had impaired their students' ability to concentrate. 7 out of 10. That is not a debate. That is a consensus. So in August of 2025, Finland did something that 10 years ago would have been treated as heresy at any edtech conference in the world. It passed legislation banning personal smartphones from all classroom instruction in grades 1 through 9. Across the country, schools increased instructional hours in mother tongue, literature, and mathematics. The official aim in the language of the ministry itself was to strengthen learners' core knowledge and skills and the development of social and emotional skills. Children went back to reading, writing, adding, listening, sitting still long enough to finish a thought. The country the world had been copying for 20 years was suddenly openly copying its own grandmother. And here is what the children themselves said. 14-year-old students in Riihimäki told the journalists who came to interview them that their concentration improved when the books came back. One student said reading from a page was actually faster, and that not staring at a screen before bed made it easier to fall asleep. Children telling adults that the thing the adults forced on them was making them sick. We did not need a study. We had eyes. Now I want to be careful here because the story I have just told you is going to be misread by two groups of people. The first group will say, "See, I told you. Throw out the laptops. Burn the tablets. Children should be quiet and write with chalk on a slate the way God intended." That is not what Finland did. The second group will say, "This is a moral panic. Every generation panics about new media. Socrates panicked about writing. Your grandmother panicked about the radio. This too shall pass." That is also not what Finland is saying. What Finland is saying is something more uncomfortable and more important than either of those positions. Finland is saying that we mistook access for education, we mistook devices for learning, we mistook speed for depth, and we mistook modernization for progress. These are not the same things. They have never been the same things. And every educator in this room has known that in our bones for years, even when the consultants told us otherwise. A book is not nostalgic. A book is a piece of cognitive architecture that has been refined over 500 years to do one specific thing very well, hold a single sustained idea long enough for a young human mind to enter it and grow inside it. A pen moving across paper is not nostalgic either. Students themselves reported that switching back to printed textbooks made it easier to understand and retain new information. The handwritten word, neuroscience tells us, builds memory in a way that typing simply does not. It is slower. That is the point. So here is what I think Finland just taught the world. The most radical act in education today is not to adopt the next thing. It is to have the courage to reverse course when the evidence demands it. That is harder than innovation. Innovation is glamorous. It comes with budgets and ribbon cuttings and ministerial photo ops. Reversal is humble. Reversal says, openly, in front of everyone, we were wrong and the children paid for it, and we are going to fix it. How many systems in this world can do that? Now, I am Caribbean, so I want to bring this home. For the last decade, every government in the global south has been told the same story. One laptop per child, a tablet for every desk, cloud native, AI augmented, screen first, and much of it is necessary. I am not against the tools. I helped build some of them. But I want to ask us openly the question Finland just asked itself. What are we copying that Finland has stopped doing? Are we handing devices to 11-year-olds because the evidence says it works, because someone in a glass building told us it was the future and we did not want to be left behind? Are we measuring whether our children can concentrate, whether they can read a page, whether they can hold a thought for 10 minutes? Are we only measuring whether they can swipe? Because here is the small, sharp irony at the center of this whole story. The country that taught us to be modern just taught us that sovereignty over our own classrooms matters more than imitation of anyone else's, including Finland's. Going back to basics is not going backwards. It is the act of a confident system that knows what it is doing, knows what it values, and is not afraid to keep what works and quietly let go of what does not, no matter who is watching. The basics are not boring. The basics are sacred. A child who can read deeply, write clearly, calculate honestly, listen patiently, and sit with a hard idea long enough to understand it, that child is not behind. That child is free. And every education system in this world owes that child the courage to give her what she actually needs, even when the trend is pulling somewhere else. So I leave you tonight with the question Finland answered, and I think we owe ourselves the same honesty. What will you reverse in your classroom, in your school, in your ministry, in your home? What did you adopt because everyone else was adopting it? And would you have the courage, like Riihimäki, to put it down? The basics are not behind us. They are beneath us, holding everything else up. As we come to the end of this presentation, remember this: what you have heard is not the work of a machine. It is the continued thinking, research, and reflection of Dr. Rohan Jawala, extended through technology. The question is no longer whether we use these systems. The question is how we use them, with purpose, with clarity, and with responsibility. If this message has challenged your thinking, then it has done its work.